Hello everyone and welcome to Zandvoort for round 2 of the SCB Sunday Series in RaceRoom. We're back in the F4 car and shortly we're going to see if Dennis Shops can continue that winning form from Laguna Seca last Sunday. He's certainly in with a good shout if qualifying's anything to go by. He's put it on pole position alongside Gerrit Will in second. Row 2 sees Paolo Ambrosio and last week's runner-up Jasper van der Vaart. Row 3, James Wilkinson and Colin Lawson. Row 4, Julian Garcia and Richard Venema. And row 5, Rick Thompson and Hamish Nujvox. I've managed to put it on row 6. I've qualified in 12th alongside Stuart Clark. So as per last week, we're going to watch the majority of the race from my vantage point, but we'll try and keep in touch with the rest of the pack and see what's happening further up the field. And as the lights are about to go green, you'll see that I get a really good start, unlike Vox in front of me, so I have to take avoiding action quickly. Thankfully, there's enough space in the middle for me to squeeze through, and straight away I've gained 2 positions, but I've got Stuart Clark on the inside of me, and I don't want to cut in, so as it's the first turn, I just try and keep it as wide as possible, just to give everyone enough room. It turns out I left too much of a gap because that invites Teddy through, and look how close we get to contact. I have to ease off the gas and that loss of momentum lets Clark through as well. So suddenly I've gone from 10th back down to 13th. But the most important thing when you're running in mid-pack in a race like this is just to get around the first few corners safely. It's really tight and narrow here at Zandvoort, and we've got a stacked grid for tonight's race. So I was really happy at this stage just to get through the first half a lap with no damage and holding a decent mid-pack position. There's certainly no need to rush either because we're racing for 45 minutes tonight, so we've got plenty of time to progress once those tyres get up to temperature. And as we get into this section of right-handers, keep your eye on the blue car in 10th, Nick Campbell. He's going to run it a little bit hot into this turn. He's going to lose the rear. That's going to spin him out, and myself and Stuart Clark in front of me are both able to gain a position, so that puts me up to 12th. I run a little bit close to Stuart there and have to take avoiding action. That sends me out wide, and straight away I've given the position away again. Vox, who had such a bad start when the lights went green, is now working his way back up the field. He's passed me into 12th. I'm down to 13th, and I've got Andre Steenekamp right behind me. I brake as late as I can coming into this chicane, almost too late. I was lucky to keep it on line. As we see Vox in front just get a little bit out of shape as he gets on the gas on the exit. We're now rounding the final couple of turns before we finish lap 1, and already my attention is on my rear view mirror. I'm watching Steenekamp behind, expecting him to get a good drive out of the final turn, which he does do. He's in my draft, so now I'm expecting a move to be made up the inside. I do think about defending, but at this early stage I'm not too worried, so I leave the gap there, and sure enough, he darts up the inside. I give him as much space as he needs, but now we're down to 14th. So with a gap opening up to Finney in 15th behind me, now's a good time to check out a replay of the start and the first lap. And we'll start on the grid. I got away really well and I had to move to the middle straight away to get around Vox. I gained a couple of positions there, but as I got back on the racing line, I decided to stay wide. And as we approach turn 1, that's me in the red car, the number 25. You'll see how wide I took it. Probably way too wide because it invited the 2 yellow cars to go up the inside of me. That's Teddy, who just gets in front of me there, and then Clark also gets through. So now I'm back down to 13th. And you can see from this replay just how crowded the track gets at Zandvoort with 20 plus F4 cars bombing around on lap 1. So let's fast forward a few corners, and this was Nick Campbell getting it all wrong, losing the rear and giving both myself and Clark a position back. Really unfortunate place for Nick to crash there. It's a blind corner, so there's no way of rejoining safely. Nick did exactly the right thing and waited for the pack to come by. And then we fast forward to the start of lap 2, and that's Steenekamp making the move up the inside into turn 1. We'll rejoin the live action now, and we're on lap 3, and as you can see in front, I'm just about keeping in touch with Steenekamp, but more importantly, look in my rear view mirror. JD Finney is closing the gap. As we see the yellow flag come out, that's for Nick Campbell again, and we're going to pass there, parked up on the grass. Now, unfortunately, in a couple of corners' time, my race is going to take a spectacular turn for the worse. I'm going to make a big mistake, and poor Finney behind me is going to be the unlucky victim. Watch as I carry a bit too much corner speed and lose the rear. I try and save it, but whack, it takes me right into the path of Finney, and he's got nowhere to go. And you can see the impact caused 50% suspension damage on my car, and I suspect it's caused similar damage to Finney's because that was one big hit, and I felt absolutely terrible for making that mistake and dragging Finney into it as well. So I rejoin in 19th, and really I'm just trying to feel the car out now to see if it's drivable at all with 50% suspension damage. So while I'm getting to grips with my new and unimproved F4 car, let's go back and check out a replay of that incident. And you can see I've got a decent advantage over Finney, so I was under no pressure to take this corner too quickly, but nevertheless I carried a bit too much speed into there. There's the rear stepping out, and wow, I just used Finney as a launch pad to send me into orbit there. Let's ride on board with Finney now, and he probably thought I'd done enough to save it when I moved to the inside, but then out of nowhere, a red missile hits him hard. And look at Jason Spooner in the Finnair car. He takes advantage, he sneaks up the inside, and Jason had the best view of the lot, so let's ride with him as he watches me take off. Goodness only knows what Jason was thinking at that point. But yeah, regrettable mistake on my part, and of course I apologise to Finney after the race, and being the gentleman that he is, he took it gracefully as he always does. But yeah, if he's watching this again, I've got to apologise for that error. But as you can see, we're back with the live action, and I'm in a pretty lonely 19th place now, so it's a good opportunity to catch up with the front of the grid and see how the leaders are getting on. Let's go back to the start, and pole position man Dennis Shops gets an absolute flyer off the green light. He's going to take a clear hole shot into T1 ahead of Jarrett Will in the light blue car in second. And that's Paolo Ambrosio in the red car just having a look up the inside, but decided against making a move on Will. So it's Ambrosio in third, Jasper van der Vaart in fourth, and Colin Wilson, last week's third place finisher, in fifth. So as we watch Dennis Shops open up an impressive gap on this first lap, we're going to fast forward a couple of laps and see the first big mistake of the race, and it comes from Paolo Ambrosio in third. Keep your eye on the red car. He just gets on the gas a little bit too early out of that turn. It sends him into the wall. That invites Jasper van der Vaart through, and almost Colin Lawson as well, but Lawson just has the door shut on him. He tries again to have a look around the outside of Ambrosio, but Ambrosio's got back up to speed quickly, and it looks like he's escaped without picking up any damage from that excursion into the tyre wall. So let's rejoin my race, and as you can see now, we're 10 minutes in and I'm on lap 6, and I've managed to close that gap to the two cars in front of me, Anderson and Joransson. I just about got to grips with handling the damaged suspension, but look how close I come to picking up a little bit more. Anderson loses control in front of me, and we get so close to touching, but somehow we get by without any more contact. Yeah, we can see just how close I came here in the replay, but all was well in the end, and we gained a position. We're up to 18th and chasing Joransson. You can see that the pit window is now open, but I decide that the car's not handling too badly, even with 50% suspension damage. So I decide to stick to my original strategy. I'm going to wait until lap 14 or lap 15 to pit for fuel and new tyres. But as you can see from the leaderboard, Finney's not so lucky. Clearly, the contact that we made when I crashed into him has caused him some pretty major damage, and he's decided to go into the pits as soon as possible to get that repaired. But meanwhile, out on track and in front of me, that gap to Joransson is coming down dramatically. What was a 1.2 second advantage at the end of the last lap is now down to 0.4 seconds. So I'm really putting the pressure on Joransson now, and as we see coming through this fast section of turns, the pressure is about to force Joransson into a mistake. He just clips the curb, the rear steps out, and he's all out of shape and ends up going into the gravel. We're up to 16th. And we can see from the replay the exact moment there where the car clips the grass and gets all out of shape, and that's a really big runoff area. It takes ages to get back onto the track from there, and that cost Joransson a load of time. We've jumped forward now to lap 15, so we're over halfway through the race, and this is when I'm planning to come in for my pit stop. You can see from the leaderboard I'm up to 13th. Most of the drivers in front of me have already made their stops, but now it's my turn. Like last week, I'd originally planned to change all 4 tyres, but looking at the condition of the rears, they're not too bad, so I've made a slight tweak. We're only going to replace the front tyres, and we're going to add 22 litres of fuel, which should see us through to the end of the race. So with me in the pits, it's a good chance to rejoin the leaders and see what's going on at the front. And as you can see, Jarrett Will in second has closed right in on Dennis Shops, the leader. Now last week at Laguna, Dennis was the first of the front runners to pit, and as you can see here, he's going to do exactly the same again. I actually thought Jerry was going to follow him into the pits, but clearly Jerry was just trying to get all the draft he could. Look behind as well, Jasper van der Vaart in third. He's also pitting at the same time as Dennis. So with last Sunday's top two both in the pits at the same time, it really is a fantastic opportunity for Jerry Will to make the most of a clear track and push as hard as he can, entering lap after lap of incredible times. Now, I joined the practice server in the afternoon to do some test laps, and Jarrett was in at the same time as me, and he was really fast then, so it's no surprise to me that he's pushing out at the front tonight. But as you can see at the end of this lap, he's finally decided to go in for his pit stop, so all eyes are going to be on the track behind. How far back are Dennis Shops and Jasper van der Vaart? With new tyres and a full tank, Will's rejoining, so all eyes go to the start and finish straight. Where are Shops and van der Vaart? There they are, and they're not going to get past in time, so Will is the new leader of this race, with Shops in second and van der Vaart in third. Meanwhile, let's go back to my race, and I'm just about ready to leave the pits and get back into the action, so all eyes for me now are on the leaderboard. Where am I going to re-enter the race? The answer is a pretty lonely 18th position. There's a gap of around 11 seconds to Jason Spooner in 17th place, and behind me, Rick Thompson is about 5 or 6 seconds back. So with no action for me, it seems sensible to rejoin the top three because they were having an almighty battle at the front of the pack. We'll start by focusing on Jasper van der Vaart in the 28 car in third. Now he's all over Shops and he's trying to find a way through into second position. But now watch Shops on the exit of this corner. He just loses the rear a little bit, and that gives van der Vaart the opportunity he needs to pull up alongside, get on the gas and move into second position. Shops thinks about holding that inside line into the chicane, but then thinks better of it and yields the position. So van der Vaart's moved up to second, Shops in third, and all the while this battle is playing into Jarrett Will's hands because it's giving him the chance to open up a second or two's advantage. We're going to stick with the second and third place drivers as they power around the final two right-handers onto the start and finish straight, because Shops is going to get right into the draft of van der Vaart here, so you're expecting a move up the inside coming into turn one, and sure enough, Shops chooses exactly the right time to pull out. He's got the inside line, and at this point he's got his nose ahead as well. But somehow van der Vaart doesn't give the position up, even though it looks like he's lost it there. He stays on the gas and he's on the outside line, but manages to defend the position. Great driving from van der Vaart. But Shops isn't done. He's right in the draft as we approach this fast section, and van der Vaart loses the rear, maybe just getting a bit greedy on the gas. So that fantastic defensive work from van der Vaart, all for nothing. Let's fast forward a couple of laps and look how close the top three are. We're half an hour into the race here, and the top three are separated by less than a second. It's incredible stuff at the front of this race at Zandvoort. Look at Shops in second. He's all over Will now and trying to find any way he can to see if there's a sniff of taking that lead back. But there isn't, and later in the lap he makes a slight mistake, just clips the curb with his right front wheel. It gets him a bit out of shape in the chicane, and look who's there to capitalise. Van der Vaart is back into second place all of a sudden. Again, Shops thinks about holding the inside line to try and take the position back, but he thinks better of it. So now we've got Jarrett Will in first, Jasper van der Vaart in second, and Dennis Shops in third. And as we go a few corners further on, keep your eye on Shops. He's going to run a little bit hot into this right-hander. It's going to go out very wide, and it's going to cost him almost 2 seconds. So for the first time in a long time, van der Vaart's actually got a bit of breathing room in second. He can concentrate now on trying to catch Jarrett Will rather than looking in his rearview mirror. However, van der Vaart's progress was stifled a little bit when the front three came across some back markers. That allowed Shops to close the gap again as they run into this chicane. Both van der Vaart and Shops are behind Stuart Clark there, and they all have to take avoiding action for a Monster Energy car that spun around there too. But you can see Jarrett Will in the light blue car. He's got around Clark's and now he's on the back of Andre Kratochvil. Van der Vaart and Shops, meanwhile, are following Stuart Clark into the final turn. And as they approach the start-finish straight, we'll see Clark pull over to the left to give both these guys all the room they need to get past. And look further ahead, we can see Jarrett Will going past Kratochvil on the inside as well. So the back marker's getting out the way to let these front guys through and continue their battle. Now we'll fast forward the action half a lap to when Van der Vaart and Shops catch up with Kratochvil, and there's a bit of confusion here. Look at Kratochvil, he moves to the outside to let these guys past on the inside, but it looks like Van der Vaart had already committed to go around the outside. That costs him a lot of time, and Shops is there to pounce, and that gives Shops second position back. Van der Vaart relegated to third. All the while, Jarrett Will is just opening up a little bit more of a lead, and as we approach the start-finish straight again, look how close the two cars are behind. They're having an almighty battle now. Van der Vaart determined to get that second place back, and he's going to go for a move up the inside. There's going to be contact. They touch wheels, and Van der Vaart so nearly loses it, but he manages to hold on. But he's lost valuable time, and look at the gap that Shops has suddenly gained. We're on the last lap now, and if you think it's over, think again. Shops is in a clear second, but he makes a rare mistake. Clips the grass and he spins out. Van der Vaart can't believe his luck as he comes round to see Shops facing the wrong way on the grass. He's got his second position back, and poor old Dennis has to rejoin with no time to recover. And his bad luck's just going to get worse here because there's been another incident and there's more contact as Kratochvil tries to rejoin. So yeah, dramatic conclusion to a race-long battle between Dennis Shops and Jasper Van der Vaart as we just wind back the action to see what happened to Kratochvil and Stuart Clark. And it's Kratochvil who loses the rear and just slides into Clark. Both drivers go off. Kratochvil spins back into the track, and he's probably not expecting Shops to be coming around there, and there's more contact. But as I said, this is the last lap, so all three of these guys can limp home. Meanwhile, let's turn the clock back 10 minutes or so and see how my race is getting on. I'm actually up to 12th, and that's not because I was setting any kind of crazy pace or passing loads of drivers. There were a few drive-through penalties given out. A couple of drivers had to pit again for damage, and I found myself just quietly going about my business and working my way up to 12th, which I was delighted about given the disastrous start. I came under a bit of pressure from Fox, but watching the rearview mirror as we enter the chicane, just as he was getting close to me, he loses control and spins out. So all of a sudden, I've got some breathing room again, and I'm confident of holding on to this 12th place, barring any more disasters, as we watch a replay of Vox just take it a bit too hot into the chicane. The rear steps out as he clips the curb, and although he tries to save it, it's just impossible, and he spins around. Meanwhile, back out in front, and that last lap drama involving Shops and Van der Vaart was perfect for Jarrett Will. He had a fairly leisurely last lap, and we're going to watch him now take the checkered flag to win round 2 of the SCB Sunday Series. Also, keep your eye on the car in front of Jarrett Will. Yeah, that's me, the number 25. I just managed to avoid being lapped, and that actually put me in a really good position all of a sudden, because although I'm a couple of seconds behind Jason Spooner 11th, the fact that I saw Jarrett Will take the checkered flag right behind me meant I knew I had nothing to lose here. For the first time since picking up that damage, I could push the car as hard as I wanted and do everything I could to try and catch Jason. I knew that no more cars would be coming past me. The checkered flag was out. Everyone else behind Will had finished. So it was a case of win it or bin it for me, and I pushed as hard as I could to try and close that gap down to Jason. As we approach the turn that caused me such a headache in lap 3, I finally sense that I'm starting to reel Jason in, and I get a lot closer on this turn here. Shift down to second to try and make the apex as tight as possible. Get on the gas as early as possible. The car's handling is still a little bit out of shape thanks to that suspension damage, but we're right behind Jason now, so I've got a real sniff of getting 11th place here if I can just close that gap a little bit more. It's down to 0.6 of a second as we approach the chicane. I try and take as wide an entry as possible to carry as much speed as I can through here, and then get on the gas as quickly as I can coming out of it, and we are closer. It's 0.5 of a second now with 2 corners to go. It's looking like it might be a long shot, but you never know. If I get these 2 turns exactly right, we could get in the draft and win a drag race to the line. But sadly, it just wasn't to be. I just couldn't get quite close enough to make that move before we crossed the line. But after such a disastrous start to the race, I was more than happy to finish in 12th and pick up a few more championship points as we see the winner, Jarrett Will, with a fastest lap of 1:41.6. And there's the classifiers. We've got Will, Van der Vaart, Shops in 3rd, Garcia a great 4th. After that, we've got Paolo Ambrosio finishing 5th, Colin Lawson in 6th, Richard Vanema 7th, Wacky Teddy 8th, Andre Steenekamp 9th, and rounding out the top 10, James Walkington. So with 2 rounds of the SCB Sunday Series down, we've been blown away by the standard of the action. The quality of the racing has been quite superb, and that's down to all you guys who enter it, so a big thank you for that. And we'll close the video by looking at the series standings, and as you can see, surprise, surprise, there is nothing to separate Dennis Shops and Jasper van der Vaart at the top of the table, both tying for first position on 41 points. Then we've got Colin Lawson in 3rd on 26 points, Paolo Ambrosio 4th on 25. He's tied with our race 2 winner, Jarrett Will. Then we've got Julian Garcia 6th, Richard Vanema 7th, James Walkington in 8th. Somehow I'm in 9th with 12 points, and Jason Spooner rounding out the top 10. Round 3 this Sunday will take us to Hockenheim, and if you fancy getting involved, there are still some spaces on the grid. All you need to do is join the SCB community on Discord. I will stick an invite in the description of this video. Just click on that, come and join, introduce yourself and say hello. We welcome drivers of all standards, all abilities, all levels of experience, and it'll be great to see you. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll be back again soon. Cheers.